Disciplines to Grow a Construction Business by Shawn van Dyke. Learning how to grow a construction business profitably and in a sustainable manner requires more than just selling additional work. In fact, doing more work could be limiting the growth of your construction business. The goal of many construction businesses is growth, but undisciplined growth will put you out of business or stunt your growth just as fast as running out of money. To ensure sustainable growth in your construction business, you have to answer these two questions. Why do you want to grow? And how do you want to grow? The answers to the first question, why do you want to grow, could be increased profits, financial freedom, or maybe to sell the business. The answer to the second question, how do you want to grow, could be you want to grow deep or wide, large or small. There's really no wrong answer to these questions, but there is a right way to do it to mitigate risk and to ensure efficiency and productivity and profitability at every stage. So how to grow a construction business? Slow down. Fast growth is not an indication of profitable growth. Usually, it's a sign of undisciplined practices, lack of direction, and the inability to say no. This article is part one of a 4-part series where I'm going to show you 4 different strategies that will lead to the growth of your construction business. These strategies will take time to implement, and they must become a habit. Establishing good habits takes time to develop. That's why I call these strategies slow growth disciplines. And disciplines are hard, but they're good for you over the long term. So discipline 1, using margin to determine your markup. As I wrote in this article, there's only one markup for your business. So check out the blog post and I linked to an article that I previously wrote, and it's all about how to determine the markup for your business. Understanding how to use your markup to produce the margin you need for your business is key to making a profit. First, you must understand what your margin is and how to use this margin to determine your markup. So think about a page in a book. The space between the edge of the words and the edge of the page is called the margin. Well, the same idea applies to the margin in your business. Margin is the space between your price and your costs. In a construction business, we refer to this space as your gross profit. So gross profit equals your price minus your costs. And here's how your business looks on paper or on your profit and loss statement, otherwise known as your P&L statement. So check out the blog post. There's a graphic there that kind of breaks this stuff down. The income statement breaks down into 4 main categories. Category number 1 is your income. And income equals total revenue and equals price. Throughout this blogcast, I'm going to be using those terms, income, total revenue, and price, and they're all interchangeable. So think about your total income, all the money that your business receives, equals your total revenue. It's really the same thing we're talking about, which also equals the total price for all of the projects that you do. So if you add up all the prices for all of the projects that you do within a year, then that equals your total revenue, which is the same thing as your total income or just your income. So that's category number 1, income. Category number 2 on your profit and loss statement is your cost of goods sold, or COGS. And the cost of goods sold, those are the things that you buy, you mark up, and you sell to your client. And those typically are labor, taxes on that labor as well, materials, subcontractors, and equipment. Those are your cost of goods sold. And that's category number 2 on your profit and loss statement. Category number 3 are your expenses. If it's not a cost of goods sold, then it's an expense. And those usually are general expenses, office expenses, job and shop expenses, and everything else. So if you don't buy it, mark it up, and sell it, leave it out in the field for your clients, then it's probably an expense. That's category number 3. Category number 4, and the final one on your profit and loss statement, is net profit. And that's simply calculated by taking your income, or your total revenue, or all of your price, minus your cost of goods sold, minus your expenses, and that leaves you with your net profit. Those are the 4 basic categories. Number 1, income. Number 2, cost of goods sold. Number 3, expenses. And number 4, net profit. And like I said, the equation for net profit is really simple. It's net profit minus income minus cost of goods sold minus expenses. Or net profit equals gross profit minus expenses. Same thing. And the net profit is usually expressed as a percentage of the total revenue. Now, I'm going to get into some equations and some numbers here, but check out the blog post. I know that doing math over audio is really hard. But check out the blog post. I'll have all of this stuff laid out for you. So net profit as a percentage of your total revenue, you're going to take your dollars of net profit and divide it by your dollars of income and multiply it times 100 to get it into your percentage. So that's your net profit in a percentage. If you aren't making a net profit high enough to sustain and grow your business, then your price is too low, or your expenses are too high, or it could be a combination of the both. Now, yes, your cost of goods sold could also be too high, but your costs are what you mark up to get your price. See, your price equals your cost of goods sold times your markup. That's how you get your price. We don't mark up our expenses, it's only our costs. So our price for all of our projects is our cost of goods sold times our markup. The cost of goods sold for a given project should be fixed, meaning that you should be able to determine the cost of goods sold for any project or for your entire business through proper estimating. So if the costs of goods sold are fixed and your price does not produce enough margin to pay for your expenses and leave you with a net profit, then your markup isn't high enough or your expenses are too high. But don't reduce your cost. Reduce your expenses and or increase your price by increasing your markup. Okay, so what do you mean don't reduce my cost? That's one area that most people think, oh, I didn't make any money or I don't have a high enough net profit. I need to reduce my costs. No, it's really difficult to reduce your costs, and here's why. Reducing your costs is a race to the bottom. You can try to reduce the actual dollars spent on labor, materials, subs, and equipment, but asking your employees or your subs to take a pay cut usually encourages them not to work for you anymore. And using less expensive materials and equipment usually leads to quality and performance issues. So cutting costs on these items will lead to inferior work. Inferior work leads to less sales and less revenue. So the easiest way to reduce your cost of goods sold as a percentage of your total revenue is by raising your price. So let's take a look at your cost of goods sold on your profit and loss statement as a percentage of total revenue. The cost of goods sold in percentage is just the dollar amount of your cost of goods sold divided by your total revenue in dollars times 100 to get it in percentages. So here's an extremely scaled down version of what I'm talking about. If cost of goods sold equals $70 and your total revenue is $100, so we're saying you bought something for $70, you marked it up and you sold it for $100, that's your total revenue, then your cost of goods sold is 70% of your total revenue, or $70 divided by $100 equals 70%. If you want to reduce your cost of goods sold as it relates to your total revenue, then increase your total revenue or your price. Remember, those words are interchangeable. And you do this by increasing your markup. What you previously sold for $100, you're now going to sell for $105. We're not doing any more additional work. We're just selling that work for a higher price, $105 versus $100. Increasing your price by 5% reduces your cost of goods sold by 3%. And here's why. Our cost of goods sold didn't change, $70, and now our new price is $105. So 70 divided by 105 times 100 to get it in percentages is 67%. The dollar amount of the cost of goods sold stayed the same, but the percentage of the cost of goods sold in relation to the total revenue decreased from 70% to 67%. In other words, you're doing the same amount of work, you're just charging more for that work. Therefore, you're reducing your cost of goods sold per dollar of total revenue. And this is where it all ties into margin, right here. If you spend 67% of your total revenue on your cost of goods sold, then you have 33% of your total revenue left over to pay for your expenses and hopefully to leave you with a net profit. This 33% is the space between your price and your costs, and this is your margin. Now you need to know what the required margin is for your construction business so that you can determine the appropriate markup to apply to your costs in order to pay for your expenses and have a net profit left over. The tables below show the margins produced by applying various markups or markup factors to your cost of goods sold. So check out the blog post, and you can click on the tables there that are listed towards the bottom of the blog post, and it gives you exactly what the math is. For each markup, it yields a certain margin. For example, a 15% markup yields a 13% margin. A lot of contractors use 20% markup factor, thinking they're making 20% on their money, but a 20% markup factor only yields a 16.7% margin. And on the tables there, I lay out a bunch of other markup factors and their various margins. You got to understand how this works so that you make sure you're not losing money. And using your margin to determine your markup gives you the ability to properly price each job. Understanding how your markup is created will motivate you to track and analyze everything else in your business. So in the coming weeks, I'm going to show you 3 more disciplines that will help you grow your construction business slowly. Practicing these disciplines will enable the slow growth of your construction business, and slow growth leads to the ability to scale. You know, a wise carpenter once told me, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Show me a slow and smooth construction business, and I will show you one that can go as fast as it wants. Need help streamlining your construction business? Sign up today to receive a free copy of the Paperwork Punch List, 28 Days to Streamline Your Construction Business. And this book is available exclusively for free at ShawnVanDyke.com/thepaperworkpunchlist. That's ShawnVanDyke.com, ShawnVanDyke.com/thepaperworkpunchlist. Hey, Shawn Van Dyke here. I just wanted to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to this audio post. Email me any questions or comments you might have at my email address, which is connect@ShawnVanDyke.com. That's CONNECT @ShawnVanDyke.com. And let me know what you think. Thanks so much.